I'm Bridget, and this is Bookmarked Adventures. You may know me from the Children's Department of the Massillon Public Library. Fictional characters are on everyone's mind with Halloween just around the corner, so I figured I'd talk about a few fractured fairy tales. You can find my entire recommended book list on our webpage, massillonlibrary.org, under the Online Resources tab. I tried covering as many of the big fairy tales as I could, but there's no way to cover all of the amazing retold stories out there. So I brought you a few of my favorites. A fractured fairy tale is taking a classic fairy tale and putting a spin on it, reimagining or restructuring it to tell a different story. It can be changed in any way to be funnier or turned into a horror or mystery. Sometimes it's just a different main character. You know the whole thing about it's my side, your side, and then there's the truth that lies somewhere in the middle? Well, you just have to keep the basic storyline or flow of the story, then throw in the new characters, plot twists, or a new perspective. It's great for kids to play with what-if questions. Some of you might remember our program, Cooking Up a Story, last year. Wow, was that really only a year ago? Jeez. Anyway, some of you came and you listened to the stories while creating some great treats. I just wanted to mention that there's a similar book called Cooking Up a Rhyme that follows the same kind of format. It's recipes within nursery rhymes. These two are not mentioned in my recommended list, even though they're awesome books, because I wanted to bring to you a different type of cooking and storytime adventure without repeating one we've already featured. So these are like the Little Red Hen, where the recipe comes step by step in the story. Whereas Fairy Tale Feast has a story followed by one or more recipes that can help bring the story to life. So maybe you can plan a day to watch a movie like Hoodwinked and then have a Little Red Riding Hood lunch to go along with it. I like this recipe book, but it has a few fairy tales I wasn't familiar with. Don't get me wrong, it still includes Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Snow White, the ones that everybody looks for. But there's a few fairy tales I haven't heard of. So it's a good variety, plus what's familiar to me might not be familiar to you. So everyone has different views, even when reading the same book. Normally, our Books in a Box has 30 to 35 copies of the same book. But in this case, there are 8 titles and 5 copies of each book. All of these are some type of fractured fairy tale. So I kind of put it to the test by taking the Books in a Box and asking a few of the other staff their thoughts on each of the books in it. Certain staff favored some, others kind of on. It was a wide range and no two people had the same likes and dislikes on their piles. Books are funny that way. 2 people can read the same book but take different information from it. Some content may stick out more to you than it would to me. Some things might spark more meaning for me than they would for you. You may love a book that I hate or vice versa. But recommendations are a good starting place when you want something new to be able to explore. For example, I recently finished The Princess and the Fangirl, I listened to it. Anyway, it's the second book in the Once Upon a Con fairy tale series. Geekerella comes first, and then the third book is Bookish and the Beast. My 17-year-old daughter read Geekerella and gushed about all of the details to me. Then my niece started talking about it and how much that she wanted to read it, but her viewpoints and what she was looking forward to about the book were completely different. Not a lot, just enough to express that the same book can mean different things to different people. Book 1. A handsome sci-fi prince falls for a passionate fangirl. Oh wow, there's so much more than that. And spoiler, she's not a fangirl of him, which was the funniest part to me, especially when she accidentally breaks his nose. I laughed because it was a situation that I could definitely see myself walking into. Book 2 is Hollywood's geeky leading lady swaps places with an ordinary con girl who could be her twin. First thing that I liked about this book was it was the same characters from Geekerella, and so I already had a taste for them and could then transfer it over into this book. Book 3, which I'm super excited to read next, is a bookish small-town girl finds herself drawn to a newcomer with a mysterious past in a secluded mansion. I mean, I'm a librarian who loves Beauty and the Beast. So for me, it's exactly up my alley for what I should read. Granted, it joined together Hollywood A-listers with the average person, but there are adorable twists to fairy tales that we know while making it relatable by referencing technology and real-life A-list stars. I highly recommend this series to anyone who loves cosplay and believes in the magic of fandom. I did read these by listening to an audiobook version on Overdrive, which is so not cheating, by the way. But it was the only way that I could fit it into being the mother of 4, working full-time, having the attention span of a gnat, which pretty much is life in a nutshell, right? I was able to follow these and appreciate the story. One-liners like "the impossible is only impossible if you don't even try" just captivated me. I found tons of inspirational advice on appreciating yourself, standing up for what you believe in, while having the fictional setting basis that I dearly love. I also appreciate that these romantic comedies were completely PG, so if my daughter asked me to be able to listen to them, I didn't feel weird about what could be coming next. So my last book leads into a perfect cautionary warning. Not every fairy tale is sunshine, rainbows, and happily ever after. So maybe pre-read those. Any of them that you may not have read before, just before you read them to a little one, make sure that there's nothing surprising coming up. Some fairy tales, especially the originals, can be pretty gruesome. This one's not gruesome, so don't worry. But I really wanted to include this book because it's an excellent depiction on depression. And sometimes kids don't know how to put a name on this type of feeling. It also happens to be one of my favorite type of nonfiction. And that's because it reads like fiction. Yep, you heard that right. It's a nonfiction that reads like fiction. The Princess and the Fog is a good book in general, but it can also be very helpful for anyone with little ones who may not understand a deep sense of sadness that they feel. I get asked about books to help kids deal with a loss. This book is my go-to recommendation. It has coping mechanism, descriptive illustrations, and a simple story that perfectly puts depression feelings into words that are hard to find. Even if you aren't interested in the depression message, you should give this book a try. I hope that you check back next Wednesday at 11 a.m. to see what I'll offer up next. Don't forget to check the Massillon Public Library's homepage for upcoming programs and go see the full book list of suggestions under the Online Resources tab. You might find one that you want to reserve. So your next adventure could just be a page away. Bye for now.